Drinking like 3 slices of bread with each beer. It's
Yeah, it's brutal. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Frostside Chat, our weekly live streamed post-session discussion where we talk about what just happened during D&D. This is the chat for session 23, so if you've not watched that session yet, please go do that now because there will be spoilers. I am your DM, Eric, and joining me is Paul Robbins' player Chris,
hello.
Edmund's player Raymond, and we have concluded our... So really just a two-session little adventure in East Haven.
Yeah. Pretty short then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how much epilogue there's gonna be, because I mean, I guess I don't know how much you can talk about it, because if it kind of feels like we're in the middle of something, but maybe not. It may have been just you go to East Haven, you see what they're doing with the burning of people, and then you just leave. Like that's what's happening in East Haven, and okay, that's what's happening in East Haven.
I mean, yeah, a lot of the stuff is how involved do you want to get in any of these things too. And I try to give you guys like the relevant, information, especially in regards to the design burning thing. Like, okay, I gave you the journal thing that you can make the clues on, and that was kind of the follow up to that.
Right.
I never like putting up like a hard stop, like, oh, they didn't, figure this out, so I guess I'm not doing this whole thing. Like, obviously, I'm prepping something. I want you guys to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at the East Haven ferry, you all found the two maps, which, a lot of this is pretty close to the book. I had changed the fight in the ferry, which is last session, not this session. And instead of finding a dwerger there to find out information, I just put some maps there so you can learn the information from that.
Not in a social encounter, but like just an actual documents. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got really two important pieces of information. One of them was, hey, you need to get your ass to the town hall to stop a heist from happening, essentially, or turn this into a heist, however you want to do it. And then B, yeah, there's another location you can go check out.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully you guys made it right to the town hall. I think you understood what I was pushing for there because I was sweating bullets. Like, oh god, what if they decide to like stake out the ferry or something all night and just I've got fucking nothing for them to do and they're just gonna miss everything. Like there was a little bit of worry about that, but I was like, I think they're gonna pick up on my clues. Like, all right, you gotta go, and you find out it's pretty recent and all this shit.
And I think we actively were trying to figure that out. Like, was this note written recently? Are they talking about tonight?
Yeah.
Or has this already happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thankfully it was going to be a question like, well, we might as well check this out and see if it is happening, and was indeed supposed to be that night. There's an interesting thing from the book where there's the actual quest associated with East Haven. I didn't run at all. It's a whole dungeon and a whole other thing. And it's just one of those things where there's literally every town has a quest. We're not going to do 10 quests in chapter 1. It's too much content.
Is it just because the quests aren't related to the main plot?
Yeah, 90% of the quests are like not involved at all. And the few, like Beautiful Mine, of our group, it's been Beautiful Mine and Goodmead that I've run that haven't been involved. And then I included Mountain Climb to be involved in the quest. Okay. And then all the other ones I more carefully included into the quest. But yeah, a lot of them are like, I mean, we can even talk about, there's one where you go into the middle of the lake, there's like a Loch Ness monster in the lake. And it's just a lot of like just kind of random shit like that. So anyway, that was one I didn't run at all. And then there was a follow-up to that quest where you get like an item from that quest and then a bunch of like thieves try to steal that item. You can either run that one, or you can run the one where the Dwerger come and try to steal the statue. I was like, well, fuck. Obviously, the Dwerger one is way more central to the plot that I'm running, and it makes way more sense to run that one as the event, which is nice because it's not a big dungeon. We just did a bunch of big dungeons. It's basically just kind of a heist thing situation, which is definitely what I was going for.
Right, yeah, like almost like we're interrupting a heist because like it's like the middle of the night, there's no one there. Which actually,
I thought they had to go out again. I was like, why are the dogs running around so much? Oh, they've been out twice. Yeah, he's been out twice. Sorry.
Did I die?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I think that fight, or yeah, Thimbleweed killed it with his last attack.
Okay.
You and Edmund got MVPC, and then Raymond or Chris rolled, and you got another gem, which you already put in your sheet. Yep.
At least I didn't die.
You did not die. Nobody died. Everybody got three of y'all got really close, but nobody died. Yeah. For puns, yes. Happy birthday to your kids, Nick.
What were we saying? I
Interrupting
was
a
surprised
heist.
there was no
Yeah.
one in the build, which I'm actually curious about that from a DM perspective. How big and expansive was the map?
Hmm.
Because it seemed like there was a lot of space that we only saw 2 rooms.
Yeah. It's
I mean-
big.
Let me go backwards a little bit
Yeah,
before
go
you
ahead.
answer that too. But I'm sure you could hand wave this as well. But what if none of our characters could read Dwarven? Like,
Mm.
I mean, again, you could hand wave and just like, oh, the Dwerger wrote in common, but I mean that wouldn't make sense either.
A good question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. In that case, it's me knowing my players, and maybe, you know, I give you a scroll beforehand. It's like a scroll of comprehend languages or something. You know, you try and work around that, because you're right. You want to try to make it like, okay, it wouldn't make sense that they would be writing in common. They literally don't even speak common. They just speak Dwarvish and Undercommon, I believe. But you don't want to like gate your players in that way. So it's a tricky balance, and that's something where I know at least somebody reads and speaks Dwarvish, because we've been through that before.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Just,
interesting
like,
comment. You have to
knowing-
kind of keep up with what your players know to some extent.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to your question.
Yeah, so
I'm also skipping ahead too, because we had a whole section outside the town hall.
Yeah.
We went to the town hall. We couldn't find tracks. We walked around in circles for a while,
mhm.
which was pretty funny. And then Edmund decided to yeet
Mhm.
right through a window at the second story. What was this? What was
Which I
that
loved.
other entrance? What was that like entrance you were talking about? If we had found tracks, is that what we were talking?
Yeah, so, which thank goodness I didn't try to put a map or a bunch of things here, because it was just one of those alternate avenues. So I was really thinking, okay, the coolest thing about a heist is the players get to decide how we enter, what our plans are. You know, you're not quite sure what you're working with, but you know, here our targets are in here. How do we get in there? I love that we split the party right off the bat, 'cause I think that was funny, although it ended up not technically mattering much in the end, because you all entered at the same time, but that's totally anything to work with. Had you guys, I think I literally wrote down like a DC 12 survival check, and you guys were rolling like 10, 11,
Yep.
9, like they were all really low.
It
And I
kept going
thought,
lower.
yeah, after, when you initially started missing it, I was like, and they were just kind of staring at the door going, okay, their windows. I'm thinking like, oh, did I fuck up? That I should just let them find this other entrance, because that would have been the better story. But thank goodness Raymond's just a fucking great D&D player. I was like, well, let's fly up there to the fucking window and find out. I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. What you would have... What you would have found was tracks leading to basically like a sewer, although sewer is probably too much of a word for it. It's not a big city, but like a tunnel that basically you would have found how the Dwerger got in, because if you notice, the door wasn't locked or anything. So they went underground into basically that little tunnel sewer system, and then smashed down a wall using that hammer suit, and ended up getting in through this dungeon area, which you guys didn't explore at all. But in fact, on this, I'm gonna put you guys back on this map. If you notice, there are stairs leading down in this room, and had you guys followed the Dwerger way in, you would have found a bunch of guards dead in a table, because the Dwerger happened to bust in right in the like guard room with the jail. And then there was going to be one prisoner in the jail, and I wrote a bunch of information that prisoner had, because he would have seen things happening. And then the stairs leading up would have led up directly into this room.
Okay.
And that's how the Dwerger got in.
That leads directly into the question that I had asked a second ago, which may answer the question, is that I was surprised that there was no one else in this building. When I saw the size of the map and like that we were in like 2 rooms, I assumed that this was like a dungeon. Like it was like a big map with like different, like many rooms.
It kind of is, but it's... One thing they did, a weird thing with this art style, is it looks good like tiles and wall wise, but every map is almost completely empty. There's no furnishings, there's no like the entire map, the only thing in this map is the statue and these like 4 pillars, and that's it. So I was like, I'm not gonna have them go room to room, because I gotta fucking I put stuff in the one room where I figured we'd end up in, which is that, and thankfully you guys did end up in that, which was the lounge, whatever, administrative little office room.
Yeah.
And that's why I had you guys bust through that window, because like, all right, this is the one that's set up. I literally put all those little map assets on there just to have something in that room. but it is technically a huge map with like it's got a first floor, a second floor, a third floor, and a dungeon. And they're all just empty rooms, and if you look at the sheet, they literally annotate them like T1, T2, T3, because they're all, annotated on the map, and it's like, this is a storage room, this room has a bunch of chairs in it, this room is an office. So it's just a fucking building.
Okay.
But they mapped it completely. I was like, well, I can work with that. It's still...
I guess it's nice they mapped it.
It's nice they mapped it.
But to what end?
Yeah, but I was like, I can work with that. So, I was sweating.
Having trouble describing the map. I'm like, okay, just pick the win. I could sense like,
yeah.
Like you picked.
Well, it worked out really well because I thought I was really. It wasn't a frustrated. I was excited by it. I was like, okay, now we're gonna split the party, but in a way I hadn't foreseen, which is going through a window on the third floor. And notice how I didn't try to like put anybody's token on that map or have like Heather move around, because it's just a fucking empty hallway full of empty doors. I'm like, this is gonna take fucking forever if we're just opening doors, which is why I DM the style. Yeah, I'm just if you listen to it, I just montaged and it was like, look, you go through a bunch of doors, you open, and I was just controlling. I was like, you open a bunch of doors, there's a bunch of storage rooms and desks and offices. I'm not gonna put you on the map and have you open those doors and painstakingly describe all that. It's just fucking waste of time.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, and like you go through the library, and then she makes a comment like, okay, and then you go down the stairs, and then there's a window, which is why I was looking at the map, and then you can see down into, and then you describe the entire room you can see.
Yeah. If there's nothing else going on in this whole map besides that, then yes, why let us just wander around aimlessly for?
Unfortunately for you all, the person that you sent careening out to do the scouting is also a bloodthirsty barbarian. So instead of doing any kind of like reconnaissance, she just immediately got the party started.
Which I think worked in our favor.
Kind of did,
because it just drew all their attention, and like you said, probably my next move would have been to try to stealthily open that door, and I realized immediately after you were describing things that would have gone bad for me because there was a dwarf standing right fucking there.
What you need, so
that door.
Yeah, I wrote down that once you're in that room, which is T2, is labeled that way, with that little office area that you three started in, you have to immediately start stealthing to avoid being heard, because they are watching that room. They're not like have the door open, they're looking at it, but they're like, doing the furtive, like, kind of to the side, poking the head out every once in a while and looking. Now, I can't reveal what their perception check is, because I guess we're still going to deal with Dwarga in the future, but it's not great, so it wouldn't have been a really challenging stealth check necessarily, but that would have been part of it. I would have described the fact that door was slightly ajar. In fact, I think I'm going to mention that the door was slightly ajar. To the east. I don't know if we would have gotten that part yet, because I think Frey already jumped into the building. Right. Jumped into the room.
Yeah.
But that would have been part to clue you into the fact that there might be right on the other side, like looking into that room. So it would have been some stealth checks. You could have gotten close, and I would have said before you even opened the door, if you had a successful stealth check to make it there, you could have seen another Dwarga right on the other side and had a chance to, possibly respond to that. So basically, they just denied you guys the stealth round, because technically, if you guys could have had the jump on them, depending on how you approached the situation.
Yeah.
But like I said, it worked out because she flew in and just fucking into a rage.
Yep.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
As written, I did scale this fight up. So, well, obviously I added a hand, but.
Oh, did you now?
Oh, I did. I did, sir.
That was your design.
Talk to the hand.
This fight was fascinating to me because it immediately went from a fight that was involved. Mm-hmm. It was, it took some time, but it was never in question. It was never like harrowing. It was that hand took it straight from like, oh, it'll take some time, but it's no big deal. Like, we got this, to, oh shit, we gotta actually like actually make some decisions here to win this fight.
So I scaled it up. It's supposed to be Dirth Sunblight, who is a Mind Master, with 3 other Dwarger, and then I added the Dwarger Hammerer, which is a neat stat block that's in Rime of the Frostmaiden.
Is that just because this is designed for lower levels? Is that kind of what's...
So that's part of the problem, is all of Chapter 1, I think, is like level 1 through 4, level 1 through 5, but they don't do a thing that's like, this dungeon's for level 1, this dungeon's for level 2. It's just like, this is Tier 1 stuff. So I have to make the decision as the DM to scale some stuff up or down. Like, if you had gone straight to good meat at level 2, I would have had to scale those giants down like somewhat, because those guys were fucking way too strong for level 2. Or turn it into more of a social thing. So, yeah, partly that's on me, and frankly, after years of playing D&D, I know that in general, D&D needs to be kind of scaled up a little bit, unless you guys are like in a dungeon that's pretty long, and then you can understand that's a resource thing. But like, I knew you guys had only had, I think, the bee fight, which wasn't that big, and then that little fight with the Dwarger armor thing. And I knew you guys were, and you guys probably picked up on this as well. This is kind of your last big thing before another long rest. So I was like, I can go pretty hard on this fight, and really work them. So I added the hammerer, and even then, you guys didn't get the surprise round. So I thought, okay, without the surprise round, maybe this will go a little bit more, back and forth. And it did a little bit. I as soon as you remembered about the trank darts, it's like, okay, he can easily take somebody out like every round. But then I was like, oh, he's actually having to do other things, so he's only gonna take one person out. Which was effective. I mean, those Dwarger can do solid damage when they're big.
Those pickaxes, once they started doing damage with them, they were really doing damage.
As bad as I was at rolling saving throws, I was hitting with a lot of my attacks. And then, I added a little bit something extra. Basically, this is a fun way to tease what you guys might be running into later on in the campaign, too. That's all I'm going to say about that. But this living spell, which is something added in Rime of the Frostmaiden, comes out of this statue as a result of them like destroying this Chardalyn structure. And this thing is a fun ass stat block that Raymond was able to effectively neuter quite a bit, which was a good move on your part. Chardalyn ball. But I love it. Thematically, it worked really well because it was literally trapped in Chardalyn to begin with, and then it freed, and then you were able to throw that and kind of bind it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Lucky that it hit, too.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really good attack roll you made, because you discovered its AC is pretty damn high.
20. Its AC is 20.
It's a straight up 20. It is a straight up 20 AC. Yeah, and
very high. That 20 is very high for like level 7.
Yes.
Like 20 is high in general. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This thing, I will say, is a CR4. So an appropriate boss fight for your level. But what made it crazy is it appeared in the middle of a fight you guys were already in, which I think is always a really fun way to introduce new combatants.
Yeah. To some degree, you tell me. Was the trigger always the hammerer dying? Or was it just whenever you felt like it?
I literally rolled initiative for it, which thankfully in Roll20, as long as they're on the GM layer, it hides their initiative.
Yeah.
But it keeps it on the thing for me to look at. So essentially every round I determine, okay, when's this thing going to pop out? And it always had the initiative of 14. So I'm thinking it's always going to go on its turn. Because D&D there's no way to mechanically do a surprise round if the combat's already started. So the way you do that is you have if you can, have the enemy enter on its initiative, and then it literally gets to do its thing when it appears.
Yeah.
So the idea was, okay, at some appropriate time, and I basically had my notes like, okay, when maybe over half the Dwarger are dead, and it reaches its initiative, then it's going to pop out. So there was a time when I thought it would pop out like round 3, but like, I think it was the Hammerer still had 4 hit points, and the Mindmaster might have still been alive, and one of the Dwargers, so to where it was like, I don't think so, I'm going to wait another round. And I did, and I feel good about that, because I think at that point, there was only one other Dwarger who was still attacking when he popped out, and that made it feel a little bit better. I even thought that if, I had in my notes that like, maybe it pops out and attacks a Dwergar first,
I thought about that too, because I thought like when you mentioned right off the bat that it just mindlessly attacks whoever's closest to it.
Yeah.
And at that time, there were 2 living Dwarger right to the north of it, and 1 Frey right to the south of it. I was like, well, maybe if Frey just steps away,
yeah,
he'll start punching the.
It definitely was not allied with the Dwarger, and that was kind of a balancing thing in my book. I was like, okay, if the players are really struggling in some way, then there's a lot of Dwargers still alive, and I want this thing to pop out. I'm gonna have it pop out and just like murder a Dwargar, and then it's gonna start the fight with it.
Yeah.
But you guys were doing fine, so it's like,
But instead, it was a very interesting like cap on the fight where like we thought we had it. We thought we had the fight. We thought we used appropriate resources. And then like, oh shit, this thing that's very tough is now in the fight, and we gotta like really think about this for a second.
So many missed attacks on, I mean, like I said, AC 20 is no joke.
We kept trying to mitigate it. I tried to use that Emperor Lantern.
Yep.
Somebody else tried to use a spell on it, and it succeeded.
Yeah.
Or a dex save, I think. and then finally the bands were what
The
ended
bands,
up getting it.
yeah. To where you guys all, but even then, after you guys all have advantage
I
for like
know.
2 rounds, people were still missing. Poor Reese missed with I think 3 rounds on that thing before he
Yep.
finally hit with an arrow.
And he's got like a +6.
He
It's not like
does.
it's hard for him
I
to
literally looked at
hit.
his sheet. He had to roll a 13 or higher to hit it because of,
Yeah.
he had to hit that. And he hit several times. He hit like literally a 12 and hit like a 19. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
not gonna do it.
Not quite.
This thing has over 50 hit points. Also,
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a very tough fight. It felt very well balanced, which is fascinating.
which is hard to do as a DM because I had
Yes.
no idea going into it. I was like, I don't know if this thing's gonna clean house or if it's just gonna get shut down and die immediately. Like you just have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it ended up being really fun. The bands, not only did it have advantage on it, but it wasted a whole turn trying to escape, which is a hard
That's
thing for the
true.
DM to choose. Is like, okay, how do I balance this with its action economy? Well, maybe it's not very intelligent, but it's sentient, so maybe it would have enough to try and break out itself. Motherfucker, he's got a +8 on his strength, so I was like, I got a pretty good shot to bust out of these bands and negate all that, and it failed horribly. So I was like, all right, well, after it failed, I know I'm probably gonna only have 1 round if I'm, maybe 2 rounds if I'm lucky. So then I'll just try to do my thing. And I think at that point I grappled Celeste and did some more damage with that.
Yeah.
So I think it lasted 4 rounds by itself because the first round was the coming out and punching Frey. The second round, it punched Frey again, and she stayed up because I rolled below average on damage. She had 1 hit point left.
Yes. Yeah.
Third round, I believe it tried to break out of the bands because it was banded. And then the 4th round, it grappled Celeste. Yeah, and then Celeste took the damage from it, but then I think we... which is not... It doesn't do nearly as much damage if you notice when it grapples.
Mm-hmm.
But that way it doesn't have to make an attack roll.
Right. Our big mistake this fight was not taking out that last worker when the hand showed up because we got so distracted. Brandon, you said
I
this
think
at one
Celeste
point.
tried to, but she just didn't do enough damage. It had like 5
Yeah.
hit points left or something. It did not have much left. It needed like 1 attack.
Yeah.
And you guys were so focused on the thing that like, yeah, at some point it just slashed at Celeste for a lot of damage. It was like, oh shit, we have to actually take this Dwarger down.
It did like 17 to Edmund, and then it did like 12 to
Yeah.
Celeste. And I was like, all right, we really got to kill this thing.
Yeah, he's doing some damage.
It is actually hurting us.
God, you guys shut down my... Well, you didn't so much to shut down my boss as you guys fucking made the saves like crazy.
Yeah, we made the saves, and we were fucking with him.
It's got that cool
constantly.
mental move, which he did to Frey. The other one did to Frey in the other dungeon, where it literally like forces you to attack somebody else as your reaction.
Yeah.
And I was thinking there's so many opportunities to use that against Frey against somebody else, or to use it on Celeste like he tried, and everybody made the fucking save. I was like, damn it.
Yep.
And his other thing is to stab with that really powerful psychic dagger that did so much damage to you, to your player, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept being frightened, so he couldn't even approach anybody to stab him because Ray kept fucking critting on him.
Yep.
I rolled a
So
lot of crits tonight.
you rolled a lot of crits tonight. I think I had 2 and you guys had 4. Like
Yeah.
I guess it was a long battle. I think it was a 6 or 7 round battle, which was one of the longest we've ever had.
Yeah.
I think in this game, it might have been the longest battle we've had in this campaign.
I believe it.
But
Yeah.
it was a lot of crits. Would have much worse if Eric would have better rolls at the beginning. Did I have bad rolls at the beginning? I don't actually recall.
You didn't hit with those Dwarger until like halfway through the fight.
Oh, really? I thought it was hitting
Those-
a lot.
Well, the pickaxes, I mean, like the big guys. Like they missed like the first 3 or 4 times they attacked.
Oh, okay.
And then they hit somebody for like fucking 18 or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wait, these guys are actually dangerous. We should actually do something about them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot about
I
that.
feel like that was the first time when it pickaxed me while I was in the air.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the first big hit. they
Yeah,
did.
that's true. We realized how much damage they did. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why I was surprised by their damage. Like, oh man, I haven't rolled with their damage for a while.
Yep.
I think the hammer was hitting because he was grabbing
He
onto
was-
Frey and
Yeah,
hitting.
he grabbed her. He wasn't doing a whole.
Yeah.
Well, he was doing damage to her, but with her, it's
Her
hard to tell.
resistance, yeah,
So
she just
she's
shakes
like,
that
I don't
off.
give a shit.
Which is funny as a DM because you're like, all right, if I really want to be smart, I would obviously not try to engage the fucking barbarian, but at some point you gotta let the players like do the things they're good at, and she's good at
yeah,
tanking,
Yeah.
and she's really good about getting in people's faces and attacking and doing all the things. I was like, well, fuck it, unless somebody's like, you know, and there was one point where you recall I had literally the boss was like screaming and pointing at Edmund and had the other Dwerger run around, and which was the guy that ended up attacking you. So I did try to do some like, all right, these guys are at least smart enough. They've got some intel on you guys and pointing out certain enemies.
That's totally appropriate though, in terms of like when a fight starts, whoever's just in your face is who's in your face, right? Like Frey is right there; she's in everybody's face.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if you see that somebody else, if one of your enemies sees that somebody else is the real threat in the fight, yeah, they would like redirect their efforts, like like you did here.
Yeah, so I tried to use a little bit of tactics, but yeah, literally the boss, the first boss did nothing because nobody got into melee range with him. At some point, he was so frightened he couldn't move towards anybody to do melee, and everybody made the save against his mind mastery, so he was just effectively shut down.
Mm-hmm.
He was comedic relief in this show.
Kind of was, yeah. Your fucking whip is like bouncing him along, yeah.
Being whipped and being frightened is what he did.
Yeah, so many massive damage rolls, insane. I don't know what I would have done if that fucking hand had gotten, which he was pretty. The hand was pretty damaged by the time somebody crit on it. I forgot what the crit was, but I remember it had to make the massive damage save. I was like, what if it does something? Which it actually does have a lot of immunity, so I don't think it could technically fall unconscious or anything. But it's like, God, there's so many fucking crits flying around.
Yeah. I think it's a really good fight, to be honest. I think it felt very just. Also, honestly, like even from like a video game perspective, it's always fun when you have those fights where like you're fighting a boss and you're like, oh, I got this. Like I get it. Like it's fine. But then something happens and it's like, oh shit! Wait, there was a whole other thing that was gonna happen. You know, like a whole other aspect.
I like those fights, but usually those fights end in me dying and having to replay it, and then I'm like, all right, you motherfucker boss. So obviously with D&D, it's a very careful balance because there is no reloading.
Right.
And
this felt like that, where it's like it felt like a boss. Like we saw a boss fight, we had it handled, we knew what we were doing, we took care of it. But then there was this left turn that we just didn't see coming. And made it very
so the whole hand thing was absolutely all added by me because it was a cool thematically way to tie some foreshadowing stuff and like what's going on and mysterious stuff. It was a neat creature. It made sense to put it there, and I knew on the trajectory of this quest, this is the culmination of, even though this is a very small, just 2-session basically quest chain, is still kind of the end of it. So I wanted to try to make an epic thing happening. So essentially condensed like a whole mission into essentially that East Haven Ferry was part 1 and this heist battle was part 2.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of why when you guys ended the last session, like, oh, we're not getting, or not the good mead stuff. You're like, oh, we're not leveling up to 5. And I was like, I think we can squeeze East Haven in because it's not gonna be a 4 or 5 big session, a chain with a whole dungeon. It's just gonna be.
Hey, if this fight is what got us to 5, I feel like that's good. That's good. It's, the living hand was a good cap on level 4. That was a good fight to be like, all right, we're moving on now.
And this is literally, I'll go ahead and say this is literally the official end of chapter 1. Because I don't plan on running any of the other chapter 1
so the
content.
Thing is considered chapter 2?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the difference. Chapter 1 is literally each quest is in or near 10 towns. Like a nearby cave or a nearby, whatever it is, the meat hall,
like martial business
or the mountain.
Stuff, like
travel
around and help the
chapter,
towns.
which is I guess slight spoiler to where the goblin thing is, but chapter 2 is further out in Icewind Dale in general.
Okay.
And then I won't say, but there is kind of a main quest that also continues on multiple chapters. But you guys are officially at this point done with specifically fucking around in the 10 towns. I mean, obviously you can always go back to resupply and stuff, but in terms of doing things in the town and helping them with specific things, that kind of puts a little cap on it. And that, to me, that was the nice, okay, now you're level 5. Now you've graduated to the wider world.
Yep.
I'm trying to pace this one a little bit better than Tomb, where you guys ended up being, I think it was session 30 before we made it to session 30 or 31 before we made it to level 5.
All right. What will it be now? What's the next session?
24.
24? Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And level 5, man, I'm excited. Get those bardic inspiration back in a short rest.
Five's a
Everybody
big
throw all that
one.
shit out every turn.
5's a big one for everybody. Everybody gets big stuff. Extra. God, Frey gets extra attack. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
That's gonna be so fucking scary.
Which I'm actually curious how that works with the barbarian, her rage thing. Does that mean if she pulls her claw, she gets to attack 4 times?
I don't know. I have to look and see.
I'm not sure how those claws work in terms of like, is that each attack action she gets 2 claws? Because that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's, like she and I were going back on the fourth. I was like trying to figure out the math. The math is the claws are better because like I was looking at it like axe can do more per attack, but those claws you get 2 per attack, and they add up.
It says specifically once on each of your turns when you attack with a claw using the attack action, you can make 1 additional claw attack as part of the same action.
Oh, so it's once per turn. So okay, so even with
but that might
attack,
stack with multi attack. It depends on the wording.
If it says once per turn, that means it doesn't matter. Like regardless of how many times you do it, you only get the double once.
It's called an extra attack.
Well, I can see a scenario where
we'll have to look it up, but I'm
axe for one of the attacks and 2 claws for the other one. She could do that. With her double attack.
Yeah, extra attack just says you can attack twice rather than once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. So I'd have to look it up, but I would think they would scale because that would be a really crappy ability if it just didn't work when you got extra attack.
Yeah.
So I would think it would add on to that.
Yeah, like it straight up wouldn't matter anymore because you could just double attack with your axe or double attack with your claws, but the axe is better.
Right. So I would think as long as you have a claw and as long as you attack once with a claw, you can attack additional time with a claw.
Yeah.
And I would maybe even register you could do 3 attacks with a claw. I'd have to look that up, but
that would seem logical too.
Yeah.
I think probably math-wise, it would make more sense for her to do 1 axe attack and then 2 claw attacks.
For theory crafting your character
numbers.
for.
I know. I'm doing the math in my head.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, level 5 will be exciting. That'll take a while to level up at the start of next session, and then to do any kind of denouement from the fallout of this session. And then, so I don't know how far we'll actually get in the next area or story, but I'll keep that in mind that we do have all that coming up.
Yep.
Anything else about the Chardalyn Caper is what this... Which I just called it East Haven on the session organization because I don't want to spoil anything, I guess, but...
Right.
Otherwise that will...
Good.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah, it was cool.
A nice lead into more Dwerger plots.
That's right.
All right, that will do it for this week's which that ended up being a longer session too. I think we fought. I mean, we started that fight before like 11, and then it was like I think it took over an hour for that one fight. I was like, oh boy. I mean, we still ended it at a decent time, but I didn't start the poll till like quarter to midnight, I think. Whereas usually I start at 11:30, and even then I was like, God, this hand is still full health. This is gonna be a fight.
Which, by the way, I will say,
yep.
The chat was very good tonight. They tried to do us right. I forget who it was that missed, but they were trying to get a 3-way tie going. They almost
with the
did.
MVPC, yeah.
Somebody voted. I forget who it was. Somebody voted like the instant the poll ended, and it was so they're trying
game
to do
in the system.
A 3-way between Frey, Celeste, and Edmund.
Ah, nice.
They only got Frey and Edmund in there, which is fine. It's deserved, but yeah, I thought that was funny.
I think that's what everybody's trying to game now, is trying to give those ties.
Yep.
That is something they can do.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for this week's
support it.
Frostbite chat. Yeah, you do. Thank you to Chris and Raymond for joining me. Thank you to all the fans for watching, and we will see you all next week with level 5.
Yeah.